Welcome back to Patrick Christie Tonight, only on GB News. And I'm joined now by Reform UK MP Lee Anderson. And let's get straight into it, Lee, because the former Labour Health Secretary, Alan Milburn, has issued the government with a report that says the long-term sick should be forced to seek work. Now, he found that 7 out of 10 of the economically inactive want to work, but few have any help or requirement to do so. So here he is, actually speaking to GB News yesterday.
If we're going to be able to fuel growth in the British economy, then we've got to get more of those people back into work, because otherwise you rely on more and more immigration, and as we know, that has become more and more politically toxic as an issue.
All right, Lee, so what do you make of that then? Do you think the Labour backbenchers will get behind the idea that we've got to give people who are off long-term sick a bit of a kick at the backside?
Well, probably not, Patrick, but just imagine if I'd have said that a few months back, people would have been the left would have been leaping on me. But he makes a fair point. There is a small percentage in this country, a tiny percentage of a work-shy sort of culture that will play the old bad back game. I think now they use mental illnesses and all sorts of stuff to get out of putting a shift in. There is a hardcore element that will just refuse to go to work. They're dependent on benefits, and it's high time we got these people off. But on the flip side, there are genuine people who's been labelled as long-term sick or disabled or whatever, that's felt uncomfortable to return to the workplace. We need to support these people and get them back in the workplace, get them producing, get them paying taxes, and, grow our economy. That's just common sense, that is.
You make a fair point, though, because during the election campaign, Rishi Sunak was saying that, there are loads of people out there who can work, who they need to be given a nudge to get back into work because they're deliberately not. Keir Starmer's approach was, actually, I believe that they're all unwell, and if we sort the NHS out, they'll all go back to work. So that doesn't really chime with what that former Labour
it doesn't. I mean, Starmer's talking rubbish. You go to the poorer countries around the world, Patrick, where there's no benefit system in place, regardless of your disability or anything else. Those people go to work because if they don't work, they have to eat. So that proves my point that people in this country who have got a disability, who may have an illness, if they're supported correctly, they can go to work. Back after the war, many years ago, I think something like 95% of disabled people actually had a job. And the reason they had a job is because they were supported in the workplace.
OK, interesting stuff. Let's just whiz it on now and talk about prisons, actually, because last week Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood announced plans to release thousands of prisoners early by reducing the minimum sentence term spent in prison from 50% to 40%. Well, it turns out the public aren't happy with it. A new YouGov poll has found that a whopping 71% of people oppose this policy, while only 1 in 6 support it. Because also, as well, by the way, despite telling us they wouldn't, they're going to release violent criminals. So, lock your doors. But, Lee, where do Reform stand on this? Because Reform's policy in the election was more stop and search. Very popular policy.
Yes.
More stop and search. But more stop and search would mean more people in prison.
Yeah.
And we do not have room for them. So what would Reform do about this?
Well, first of all, Patrick, I think we've got about 10,000 foreign nationals in our prisons at the moment. I would be shipping them out first thing tomorrow morning. That'll free a little bit of space up. And we need to, we see people in this country, and this might seem controversial, but you know what? Look at our brave boys in the armed forces, in submarines, and jobs like that that's defending the realm. They hotbed a lot of the time. I'd have some of these prisoners on 12-hour shifts out in the fields picking fruit and vegetables, and then they could have other criminals in the prison system. They could be sharing beds, 12 hours each. Get them working days, get them working nights, contribute towards society.
So double up. So basically, put let's say instead of 2 to a cell, 4 to a cell.
Exactly.
But have 2 of them working night shifts and 2 of them working day shifts.
I mean, so there'd be some people out there thinking, oh, this is crazy. It's not crazy. Normal, decent, hard-working people do this. Go to places like Boston. They're hotbedding. Yeah. You've got 10 to a mattress in Boston in some of the housing accommodation there.
OK, well,
rocket science.
Oh, it's an interesting take, I must say. I mean, I wonder if that'll make it onto the next Reform Party manifesto. We'll have to see.
It'll be on Twitter later.
It probably will, Lee, yeah. But GB News has reported now that 4 Tory MPs are on a watch list to defect to Reform. Who are they, Lee?
Who's reporting this?
Well, this has been out there. It's been reportedly.
Well, look, I mean, it's no secret that the Conservative Party are in a little bit of trouble at the moment, and I would suspect, Patrick, that some of my colleagues, with hindsight, would probably wish that they'd joined the Reform Party a few months back. They would have kept the seats in the Red Wall. I think there was only me out of the 2019 intake that actually kept the seat in the Red Wall. And I was a Reform candidate this time. I wouldn't be surprised, come the autumn, when they've decided who their leader's going to be, or at least who's been shortlisted, that some people might come over.
Do you think if, and we're going to talk about this later, so the nominations to become the next Tory party leader opened at 7 p.m. tonight.
Yeah.
Later on, I've got one of Priti Patel's top allies, Greg Smith MP, on, so we'll be talking to him a bit about that in more detail. But do you think if the Tories choose a leader who's a bit wet, that actually you're anticipating that more people from the Tories will defect
Well, listen,
the reform?
if the Tory party choose a wet, I want to have that extension built on the side of my house, because I'll be in Parliament for another 10, 15 years. I suspect they will do that. The Conservative Party, as it stands at the moment, bear in mind, Patrick, a lot of the good guys have gone. You know, a lot of the, what I call solid Conservatives, they've lost their seat. It's probably, 80% wets in the Conservative Party at the moment. They're not in touch with the real world. They'll probably pick a wet, and that's a green light for the Reform Party, because then there's no difference. We've seen in PMQs today, it was so boring. The Conservative backbenchers and the front bench offered nothing in resistance to the Labour Party.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I mean, later on we're going to be having a chat about Nigel calling for an immigration referendum. He's already said he wants a referendum on the ECHR. Yeah. You look at it and, people can agree or disagree with that, but it's an opposition. It's an opposite view. We've not really seen a huge amount of opposition. Yeah, I suppose the Tories would say they're finding their feet or whatever. But just finally, Lee, Nigel Farage's first day in Parliament, he said that he would rely on you, right? You and you alone to show him the ropes. But yesterday, he said, I walked through the voting lobby earlier this evening. Number 78, they said, no, I'm told I should have tapped my pass on a reader too. Talk about New Boys School. Where were you, Lee? You didn't tell Nigel how he had to vote in Parliament.
Well, look, Nigel's a good friend and a great colleague, but he needs to pay more attention. There was 5 of us went through the voting lobby. I'll be watching Nigel. 4 of us tapped the cards. The thing is with Nigel, he gets distracted because everybody wants to talk to him. Yeah. Whether it's Conservative MPs, whether it's staffers, security men. Every 5 minutes, or every 5 seconds, when you're with him, on the estate, people stopping him for a selfie, they talk, he's getting distracted, so it's an easy mistake. What's it like behind the scenes with Nigel? I know we have to be quick with this, but are there a lot of parliamentary staffers from, the Labour and the Tory party that are, constantly trying to... Yeah. Is he a bit of a celebrity? It's like a Hollywood movie star walking through the estate. Everybody wants to have a selfie with him, so it's a little bit distracting, so sometimes I have to take him round the... Do you think they agree with him, though, or do you think it's just because he's a bit of a celeb? Because I'm trying to piece together whether or not there's actually quite a bit of support from him amongst younger parliamentary staffers from other parties. Yeah, especially with young people, Gen Z. I mean, go on TikTok, his following is amazing, and there was young people in Ashfield voted for me, not for me. They said they voted for me because they like Nigel on TikTok. Well, there you go. You'll have to get him back to Ashfield at some point soon then. All right, Lee, look, thank you very much, as ever.